Hey there, welcome to World Building Wednesdays, episode 5. So, looks like I'm a little behind here because I realized I went and played my intro before I hit the go live button. So, appreciate everyone joining in today. We're going to be finalizing the Abyss of Sil Haldoon today. We got some concept art done, so I want to pick some angles that we're going to use for the final art and go ahead and get started on that. So if you're in the comments or in the live chat, go ahead and say hello and I'll give you a shout out. Hey, there's Biku. And I just saw Red Fox pop on. How's it going, Red Fox? So I got the Abyss of Sil Haldoon artwork up on the screen here. So I kind of zoomed out a little bit and started to spend a little more time on the surrounding areas here. Just to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. Chances are good we probably won't see this much of it in the actual art, but that's alright. So how's everyone doing here? Volume is low. I did get a new microphone, so is that better? Maybe I just need to talk a little bit closer to the mic. Let's see here. Yep, it looks like my fancy mic, I just have to lean in a little more. Because it's got noise canceling and stuff like that on it. So, alright, so yeah, here's the concept art that we left off with last time. Like I said, I did zoom out a little bit so you could see more of the environment, but I think when we go to actually put this on the artwork on the card and also on the map for sure, we're definitely not going to have this much detail. So what I am going to do before we get into too much further on this particular piece of concept art is just remind myself that that's just what this is. This isn't meant to be a final. I'm probably not going to use this camera angle necessarily, but I did do this so I had a general idea of what I was shooting for. So this is like super overkill for what I would be doing probably for something like this if I were going to do some production art. But I figured I would go through the whole process here just to show you guys how I would go about it. So I'm a 3D artist before I was, would consider myself a regular artist. So what I've actually done here is I did a really quick setup of this and did some blocking in 3D so I can help get a better visualization of what's going on in this scene. So I just did the basics. I took my concept art and I kind of just threw some basic 3D shapes in over top of this just to figure out what worked, what didn't, and then I also would have some really good perspective lines. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit and using Blender here to do some of the settings for the perspective and things like that I'll probably use as a basis for a paint over or an ink over. So you can kind of see here in the background of the swirlies for the clouds. So I was using that scene as a reference point, and then I kind of moved the camera around a little bit from there. So you can kind of see like there's something similar, just a different angle of what's going on. And making it in 3D allows me to change the angle as I see fit, try different camera angles, and really give a sense for how this is actually going to look when I put real perspective to it. So if I need to move the camera angles around a little bit more, I can do that and choose exactly the right angle that makes sense to show off the scale, and it allows me to prototype this a lot faster. And really, you know, I have a lot of experience in 3D, so this isn't maybe a good gauge, but it takes like, you know, 10 minutes to put something like this together, which is about how long it would take to just roughly sketch it out. So if I can block something like this out in 3D, I would rather just do that, honestly, because then I almost have an infinite amount of concepts that can come out of this, because I can just move things around. So you can see what I've done here is I got the waterfall kind of in here, got the steps, and then I also took a stab at how these the stairs might work. So they kind of go down onto platforms, and then you walk across, go down onto another platform, and that would keep continuing. Chances are you're not going to see the whole thing, but I at least wanted to give an idea of how this is supposed to work in case at some point I would see more of this. So I think my perspective here, I want to get it down on the ground a little more. I think we talked about that a little bit. Is one of the things that I thought we were missing from this concept, was that the camera angle, you can get away with high camera angles to show off things, you know, like if you have the Grand Canyon and things like that, you're actually above it looking down on it, and you'll see scale that way. But I think I can do a few camera things here. One, to get the camera a little lower to the ground, because this is supposed to be pretty big. And number two, I think I need to adjust my focal length of my lens, which is getting kind of complicated for what we're doing. But I'm going to increase that so there's less perspective here. And I need to pull the camera back a little bit, but because I want to rotate the camera so it's looking up a little bit, and that will give it a little bit more sense of scale. So I'm just going to kind of work to try to get kind of a shot that's going to work well for this. So the problem that I'm going to run into is, in order to get some of the scale that I want, I'm probably going to miss out on a lot of the actual building. But hopefully that we can kind of tell that this is symmetrical, so we're not really going to lose a whole bunch of stuff. My audio still doing well? Cool, audio sounds good. All right. So what I'm going to do here is, now that I use that reference to block out this, I do need to, it's like I do need to fix a few things. I have a couple extra objects that are rendering out that I don't want. So sure that I don't want those to turn on. There we go. It looks like my friend Rod just jumped on. Hey Rod, how's it going? So right now I'm just really trying to find a balance for how to get this in the camera so we can kind of see a little more of what's going on here. I think that's starting to look pretty good from that angle there. Because you can start to see down into it a little bit, but it's not so much. Go ahead and give that a shot and see what it looks like. So what do you guys think about me using the 3D stuff? Is this something you guys are interested in looking into more, and how you use that in regular art? Are you interested in 3D stuff in general? Because I can incorporate any kind of tool set in this, show you how I work with it. Because I might do some of that stuff with the wagons as well, because there's a lot of perspective stuff in that. So I might do my concepts by hand, but when I go to actually produce the final art, I may actually model the basic shapes of it in 3D, just so I don't have to worry about perspective as much. Alright, so here I have a render that I probably am going to use. I kind of like this. So Biku and Red Fox, you like seeing this sort of stuff, huh? Do you have any suggestions for sites on help with Blender? Yeah, there's a handful of good ones out there that are free. Grant Abbitt is a really good YouTuber that does really good Blender tutorials. There's stuff on CG Cookie. Some of their stuff is paid, some of it's free. I can post some resources in the Discord, and also I can put them in the details or the description of the video when I post it as well, because I have a handful of those already ready to go, because a lot of people ask about Blender. So I'm going to save this picture out here. Pull this up, and there we go. So this just makes sure that some of my perspective stuff, it's just less thinking on how to do this. Yeah, it could be cheating a little bit, but I'm just using a tool, right, that makes my life easier, so I don't have to draw all the manual perspective lines. Plus, I have a lot more work to do to make this something usable. So there, I have my basic render. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some draw-overs on this anyway, because I have a lot more detail that needs filled in. So I'm going to rough in some of the details on here that I know that I'm going to keep. So the major edges of the blocks I'm going to keep here. But I'm also starting to fill in some of the detail. I do got my fancy half Michael Jackson glove on today to draw. It actually does help a lot on a bigger monitor when you're trying to draw straighter lines. So where this one is really going to come to life is where I choose to put in some of these fancier design elements that are on these blocks. I'll have some opportunities to go in and really add a lot of detail. So I know that these are going to have those decorative pieces in them, so I'm going ahead and adding some of those kind of things in here right now. You see, I worked in that alternating pattern here from those Mayan concepts that I saw. I tried to use as much of that stuff as I possibly could for these. I really wanted to try to work in more of the coastline in here, but unfortunately, in order to see the actual abyss itself, like the hole in the ground part of the abyss, I'm going to miss out on, seeing a lot of the other details surrounding it, which is fine. I can maybe try to work that into something else. I just thought that was a really cool reference picture. I think I'm going to try to do something decorative up here at the top block. You guys have any suggestions on what we could be putting on here in the top block? I'm going to try to build some lore around this. If you guys remember, we had talked about this structure being built by a race of giants. We don't really know much about it other than that, and some of the elements, like the steps that are going down into the abyss, were added on after the fact, and that's really all we know about this at the current moment. So I'm kind of open to suggestions on how to work some more narrative into this particular structure and how it fits in the world. So I'm going to continue just to add some more details to all this. and just get the really rough shapes put in place. I'm going to try not to go too crazy with the amount of detail. For one, it's going to be a really, really small image on the card, so you're not going to be able to see all this stuff in crazy amount of detail anyway. I'll take some of these blocks out of here. I know that's correct perspective, but I want it to read like there is an opening over here. So I think we'll go ahead and remove some of those just to do it. So still just blocking out the major shapes. And then I think we're going to work on doing some patterns. Yeah, if I put a face up there, yeah, it'll look like somebody's barfing. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's like an ancient joke or something. I mean, what kind of Mayans tend to have circles in their design patterns, from what you remember. Yeah, we're going to be working in some things, a specific pattern in here with a lot of curves and stuff. And I actually did have circles in the reference for this, so I do want to work some of that stuff in here somehow. Biku, how's your tablet working out for you? You know, I saw you posted a picture. Been able to practice a little bit with that? You love it so far? That's good. Yeah, it's a little getting used to for sure. I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of that pattern in there that I use a lot in the game, Fantasy Paisley. Yeah, the glove is kind of small. So I'm just continuing to add some details in here. I can kind of make it look like a face a little bit. So I can either do that intentionally. So Biku's asking if the giants are peaceful or warlike. That could influence the design. Absolutely, it could influence the design. So right now, don't have a lot of the lore for the giants done. So a lot of these things, how this kind of plays out. So a lot of what happens is the giants are actually giving some of this technology to these people, passing it along. There are relics in the game that were kind of the first byproduct of that kind of stuff that was going on. I'm not working on my perspective very well here, making my swirlies too big on this side. So things kind of got out of hand, like people usually do. They use all the technology to kill each other in a very nice, pleasant way, because this game is not really about war and that kind of stuff, but that's some about what the story mode is about, is kind of supporting a rebellion by keeping them fed, at least in the regular story campaign. Just a regular game, it doesn't have anything to do with that, which I'm actually working on the reveal trailer for the board game itself, so it'll explain a little more about what's going on with that. So to answer that question, instead of being like really verbose and esoteric about it, I guess I could just answer the question. I'm gonna say it's probably both, because I'm gonna be guessing that they're just like people. There's gonna be some good giants and bad giants, if you want to think about it that way. So this is more of I think a building project than anything else. So this is not a weapon. We could talk about what this thing actually was used for. Maybe that would help. I thought this maybe is could be some kind of giant like hydro power plant or something like that, where the water would come out of here, and at the very, very bottom of this, there'd be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of wheel that gets turned or something like that. Just an interesting way that that it could be portrayed, because I do have some other technology in here, but it's really kind of rudimentary stuff. You know, people have eyeglasses, but things like, there's a thing in here called the long eye, which is a tube that people look through and lets them see farther away. So obviously we know that's like a telescope or something, but to them that this is like something super crazy. And there's a thing called a mechanical torch that produces light. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So this is pretty old school technology. Think like Renaissance kind of stuff, but with maybe a little more fantasy vibe to it. Wave tank for surfing, that might be a little bit beyond the lore here, but it is a good idea though. It's kind of shallow or narrow for that. That'd be a pretty short surf. I mean, it's a couple 100 feet across, I guess, but I'm guessing that you wouldn't. It's also several 100 feet down, so if you did wipe out, you would really wipe out. Mystical effect or purpose, yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about the technology level. So, you know, Rod's saying we could use some mystical effect or purpose. So, I think I'm going to put an interesting twist on magic here in this and how it's implemented and utilized. So, a lot of stuff in this world is essentially magic to a lot of these people. Because they just don't know what it is. They don't understand technology that well, don't understand how to use it. So a lot of these things, like a hydroelectric power plant, that would be some kind of freaking wizardry to these people. So I want to try to keep that kind of stuff into perspective on this. I probably am going to have some magic in it as well, but it's going to be, like I said, some kind of different take on how it works and who's going to use it and things like that. When we start to do some more character development, and I'll probably do some more lore development episodes here pretty soon, we can get into some of that kind of stuff and see what you guys think and how we can flesh that out a little more. Because I just have some general ideas on how that might work. Put some relief designs in here. I'll try to mix it up and put some artwork in some of these instead of just some of the patterns. I do have to keep in mind, like I said, that on the card it's going to be probably like that big, so I don't want to go super crazy and put tons of detail in here because it does have to read fairly small, so I do have to keep that in mind. I think I did miss my center point on there in perspective, so I'm a little bit off, which I can fix that. That's not that big of a deal. It's like this side ended up being a little shorter than it probably should have been. So what other kind of relief patterns do you think I can put in this thing? Any other artwork that we can put on here that might be kind of cool? Kind of have a sunrise on the one side. So Rod is saying waterfall could be a double form of irrigation in addition to the hydropower. Fish, animals, and moon, probably star charts. Yeah, I kind of opened this up for a reason. I always think that's cool when you can like line this up with things that are cool, like it always lines up on the sunset on a certain day or something cool like that. Yeah, I think that would be cool to do some kind of especially like if this is maybe some kind of irrigation or water source system that is no longer functional or is part of something, that it would supply water to animals and fish and things like that. I mean, we're making this up, kind of this whole lore, so, you know, maybe this is the first part in a irrigation and, you know, thing that purifies water and turns seawater into drinking water or something like that. I don't know. So I thought about putting a more like generic adventurer down here just for some scale. And he may stay and he may not. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna make this work, but I'll just put him in here for now just to try it out. he's even a bit too big, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and shrink him down a bit. Yeah, let's do some fish. I think that'll be cool. Just to do some fish designs here. And just for some reference here, I'll pull up something cool for you guys to look at. I know some of you have not seen this so far. Let me take a look here. So this game is about cooking, and one of the ingredients is actually fish. So I want to make sure that it kind of matches up a little bit. So I'm pulling up that right now to look at. So I didn't want to just make regular fish, so I actually made this particular fish look something like, you know, those really old school prehistoric fish with like the tail that kind of wrapped all the way around the end. So this is like, I think what is it called, a coelacanth or something like that? That fish that's like super old that can walk on land and stuff like that. I can't remember what it's called. I could be wrong. But I'll probably put something similar to that in there just because it fits into the world already, and I want to keep that consistent. I know there's like all kinds of fish, but we've already established the kind of look for these, so it may help to just be consistent with that. And I'm going to kind of go for that kind of blocky but rounded off look, I think, because that will look a little more Mayan, I think. That's kind of the art style that we're basing this off of, so we might as well lean into that a little bit. I'm going to use some Photoshop wizardry, I think, to flip these on the other side in perspective. It's not lazy, it's efficient. So Rodney thinks that looks extremely Mayan. Well, that's good. I guess I've been to Mexico a couple times, so I better at least know what I'm talking about. Yeah, we do some star stuff on here. I think that would be cool. So there's my take at some kind of star map for this. I'm going to Probably give a little more detail into this. I don't know where everybody went. Maybe they went to go grab a drink or something. We finally did get a warm day here, so I'll take it. I think I'm going to do like a wave here. I think that will be kind of cool, and that will be in the vein of what we should be putting on here probably. Because it seems like this thing kind of runs on waves, and it kind of gets pushed up through this structure. So there's some interesting stuff on there. I'm going to flip this over to the other side. Oh, yeah, I guess I can't see the whole thing, so I guess I'll have to finish drawing the rest of it. I need to zoom in a little more. Not perfect, but so I'm adding some more over there. I'll continue my waves where you couldn't see it on the other side. I don't have to be as detailed on this side because it's a lot smaller down here. And I'll probably finish cleaning that up with the ink. What do you guys think so far? I'm kind of happy how this is turning out. This looks absolutely nothing like I thought it was going to, but that's kind of the point of why you do this stuff. Some of this stuff ends up being way different than you thought. How this originally was looking, if you recall, this was definitely more on the side of some kind of natural cave kind of thing, and it just, after getting some reference and tying some narrative together, it ended up not looking like that at all, and that's fine. That's why you do these concept things, because it's a lot more interesting to build a real narrative around these things and at least come up with a reason that some of these things exist, even if it isn't super deep, right? Like, we have no idea why there's a star map on this. We have no idea why the fish is on here, you know, and that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to have all the details filled out. It just has to look like it's got a story. It doesn't have, we don't have to know what the story is, right? Like, that's half of the reason that you watch movies and you play video games and all that kind of stuff, because, you know, they don't fill in all those details either. You know, I was thinking about, like, the Aliens franchise, or Alien franchise, depending on what school of thought you're in on that one, that, you know, they're still trying to figure out exactly how all that stuff works together, who made the aliens, what for, you know, and that's okay, and you can still have a good story, and there's all kinds of lore in all those movies that kind of give little bits and pieces away that it may be this way, and then it's, you know, up for the viewer to fill in the gaps, and that's okay. All right up until the point where it actually does get explained for real in a movie, as long as it looks like there's some more to the world that exists. That's really all that we're going for here. I'm like really putting some loose details in those steps, because those are going to be barely visible through this stuff. Now, the one thing that I am missing is really any kind of environmental detail, which I definitely want to put some in there. Because if we remember our concept piece here, let me get that. Breaking my own rule there. I definitely did not save that. That was a bad idea. So I'm going to just put some real basic environment stuff back here. This is supposed to be right on a cliff, but you wouldn't really know it from here. But I do want, so we can see just a little bit of the ocean here. So we'll see a little bit of grass, a little bit of ocean, and then the rest of this will be the sky, which I definitely like the idea of doing like those swirly clouds. This looks too new. You talking about just in general for it being a ruin? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I think we can definitely rough this up a little bit for sure. Because I think I'm going to probably take out some of these blocks that are around the side, like they've fallen in. I may take out chunks of the steps. I'm just kind of getting all the stuff in here for now, and then we'll kind of figure out what to destroy, I guess, to make it look like it's been used. But yeah, definitely agree with you. It is way too new to be a ruin, because I think to qualify to be a ruin, it has to be ruined. And if it's working and in very good order, that kind of is against the exact definition. So, because then we would have to call it a working, and that doesn't really sound as cool. How about those dad jokes? No, I mean, I don't think you're jumping ahead too far, Biku. It's a good question to ask. Think about this, if you've ever seen Tested, where Adam Savage does all the movie props, or if you've seen any of those behind-the-scene things, it does help to start with a final product that looks good first, and then you weather it, versus starting from kind of old already, because actually if you build it this way and you kind of have a general idea of how it was used, where the foot traffic goes, where the fail points might be based on general use, you're actually building in narrative to how this thing would even break down. And that's how they do it in the movies too. They actually think about, well, where does it get handled the most, what would be likely to break, and they start weathering those areas first to give it more of an authentic feel. So definitely want to think about it in that way. I want to figure out, you know, what part of this would start to break first due to weather or just, you know, anything really. So I definitely want to start thinking about that kind of stuff. I think it'd be a cool idea to do some very large kind of murals on the wall as well. I think that would be kind of fun. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do those, but I'll definitely play around with some of those kind of things. So I'm probably going to start wrapping up here since we kind of started doing the final designs on this. So I'll distress this one probably a little bit more and finish up some of the environment stuff. Do you guys want to see anything else on this particular project? I mean, obviously I'll get into coloring and that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of playing around here too with some of the environment stuff. I mean, this is the first time for this game that I've actually done any environment concept art. So I actually have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of making up the style here as I go along and figuring out what makes sense for this world, what works, what doesn't. I've started to hint at some of these cloud things here, and they kind of work like that swirly pattern. But I don't know if I like that yet. It's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Oh yeah, we could like Egyptian style. Biku's asking about scenes of giant daily life, maybe. Yeah, we could probably work some of those scenes, you know, into the patterns going down into the abyss there. I think that might be kind of cool. I keep grabbing the window. Get too close to the edge. The end product is softer, maybe. What do you mean by that? Maybe I'm not following along. Oh, the clouds? Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out exactly how much detail I want to put into this. Yeah, I'm kind of going for that whole old school Dragon Ball Dragon Quest feel, like late 80s, early 90s style. I might find some reference for how they treat this and see exactly what I want to do with this. It could be as easy as not doing like black outlines like I have on the foreground, but maybe doing like blue outlines or something like that. You know, I don't know. That could be a way to soften those up, because I agree, like putting black outlines on everything might be kind of heavy, especially if it's clouds and stuff. So I want to hint at some other objects and land masses over here, potentially, just to give it a little more depth to the scene. Hey, maybe we can put one of those skeletons that everybody was asking about. Maybe we can have one of those sitting down here in the corner, since that will help show scale a little bit. And it's got to be skeletons when you're having an abyss, right? I mean, it's not really as much impending doom if it's just sunshine and waterfalls and stuff. So yeah, so I'll remind myself to put a skeleton down here. So I'm going to make a notes layer here for me. So this is going to be Giant's Life stuff on these murals. I think that'll be cool. And we'll try to figure out how to make the backgrounds and the clouds and stuff not as harsh, which I agree. I want to tone those things down, and that'll help bring the foreground more towards the foreground and separate it from all the rest of the stuff. And that's why they do that, like on regular animation stuff. They have the all hand-painted backgrounds, and they have an outlined foreground to help them stand out a little bit more, and you can tell, you can separate the characters a little bit easier from the backgrounds, because if everything was painted style with no outlines, it would just kind of all blend in, because you don't have the luxury of doing all the lighting and stuff like that like you can in movies, because it's just too much work. So it's kind of like a cheater technique. So there is where we're probably going to leave off today. I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far, and I would consider this on its way to being final. So there's a few things that I would like to tweak maybe, and I might fix those for next time, like the mirroring on the top thing. I might make that look more like a face up there. That might be kind of cool. And then I can take a stab at doing some of the inking and messing around with some of the environment stuff, and then we'll see what you guys think. I can finish some of the mural stuff, and I'll post some pictures on social media, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, perfect time for Indiana Jones, yeah. I didn't put any massive boulders in here, unfortunately, so that's maybe at the bottom. So I know we talked about the wagon stuff coming up next. Does that sound interesting for everyone else to do? Like, I'd still like to wrap this one up, but I also want to start planning ahead. Is that something that you guys want to see? Are designing those wagons? And there would be 5 different designs in total. I don't know that we would do them all. We'd probably really focus on maybe one for now. Really flesh out the designs for those. Because, like I said, that's a big part of the game and the world. So we can either focus on like those wagons. We have a lot more characters to design. I can throw some other ideas out. So that's up to you guys. So if you have any feedback on that, yeah, let me know in the comments. And when this stream does go live here on my channel, I'll post those Blender resources in the details. Looks like Biku wants to see some wagons. Yeah, we can definitely do those. I'm like I said, in the last episode, I'm a big vehicle design guy, so I think that'll be really fun for me to add all these kind of details into the game and design a vehicle like that. Because I didn't think I would be putting vehicles into a fantasy game, not like this anyway. So, well, I think we're going to call it a day then. I really appreciate everyone stopping over, giving their feedback, and helping me get this thing finished. I think it's turning out pretty well. And Rod's saying hero and food wagons. Yeah, it's going to be the wagons. Yeah, that the adventure team goes around on. So if that sounds good. Yeah, we can do that. I did show a picture of that last time. That's the wagons that I'm talking about. I just have one generic one designed right now, but I would like to design one for each of the 5 different taverns in the game, so they're all going to look very distinct. I want like every piece and every component in the game to feel like a piece of art. So, well, cool. I'm glad you guys had fun. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the shout out, Biku. Yeah, I'm glad you had fun. So, yeah, this stuff is really super fun for me. I hope you guys are learning something. I'm glad you guys are interested. I really appreciate your feedback. It helps me fill in some of these details and bring this world to life. So, thanks for a great episode, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks.